Hello, welcome to the show. Today I don't have a question. I actually wanted to pick up on something that I mentioned briefly a few episodes ago and that I've been wanting to talk about since it began happening to me, and that is the concept of stalling. Holy hell, what a nightmare. I was unaware of this as a concept until it started happening to me. And like so many things in this parenting universe, when things start happening and you start to Google them and you're like, oh, this is a thing that happens to like everybody, because at the time you think, oh my God, what is going on? Why is this happening? And it's not even that the kind of thing happens to everyone. It's that the exact specific ways of things happening also happen. I'll give you an example. The bedtime routine for me, I've spoken previously on an episode about sleep. It has been the main number one top of the tree priority for me since having a child. I am lucky that my child has a temperament that, responded well to sleep training and boundaries and those kind of things. I understand this isn't the way that happens for everybody, but I was really, really not strict, but firm about it. I didn't want my kid in my bed because I knew I didn't know. I was like, how do I get sleep when my kid is in my bed? How am I ever going to get a wink of rest when I'm worried about rolling on her rolling off the bed? That was not for me an option that felt like, okay, this is the way that I'm going to get rest. It just felt like, no, I'm never going to get rest. And it's just me by myself and I actually need to get some sleep. So there's no way we're going to get into the bed. So I was really driven to get her to learn to sleep in her own bed. And did it take tears? Was it painful? Yes, it was. Was she ever upset to the point of like being left in her room for 3 days? No, she wasn't. No, she wasn't. I've mentioned before this whole controlled crying thing. It gets a bad rap. It's not about leaving your child in a room for 3 hours crying themselves to sleep. It's like a minute, But I worked through all that. And by the time she was 8 months, she was sleeping through the night. And so we have always had that, and the whole process of the bedtime routine. We've had the same bedtime routine since she was like 5 weeks old, honestly. Like when you're reading books to a blob and you're like, you don't even know what this is. Why am I doing this? But, after you've done something for a year, it's so ingrained. So we have a bath and then we read our books. And then when she started to brush her teeth, we start to brush our teeth. And so there was a whole process there. And it was always pretty simple to get her from one to the next. We would finish the books. We would then get up. We would go to the bathroom. And all I had to do to get her to move on to the next thing was like, okay, let's go brush our teethies now, until the twos hit and the stalling began. And I did not know what hellscape I was in because I was like, this is not how things roll. What are we doing? And the first iteration of it was the books. I have a bookshelf full of books for her. We might have 100 in there. And for a period of about 3 nights in a row, I was reading 30 to 40 books before she went to bed. And when I tried to stop the book reading and to move on, the meltdowns were so intense that I would have to get to the point where I would read another one until I could kind of get her past that point and then move her in. The bedtime routines were going for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I was like, what is happening? Through this period, I was really mental breakdown prepared. I was on the cusp of it all going pear-shaped. I was not handling it well. It was really frustrating because for me, at the end of the day with my kid, the only constant and the only thing that gets me through is the knowledge that at a certain point when we move through the bedtime routine, I know that door's going to be shut. I'm pretty confident around what time it's going to be shut. And then I get peace and then I can get space. Outside of that, I have no space. I am with this kid all the time when I'm with her. So when that got taken away from me, I really could not cope because I had no understanding of how long I was going to be doing this nighttime routine for, what I was going to be in for. As soon as it began, I was like, what is this going to be? And every step of the process, I was fearful. And I tell you, these little a-holes can smell fear. As soon as they know you are in a rush and that you are fearful of taking a step wrong, then they are going to slow right down. And she smelled it all over me. And I was utterly at my wit's end. It was the books. Then we would get to the bed and she would ask for a glass of water. Now, the first night she did this, she never asked for a glass of water unless she's thirsty. In fact, she used to take her bottle to bed all the time. I would give her a full bottle of water. She'd drink it overnight. And then we got to a point where she was like literally having a meltdown if I left the water bottle in her bedroom. I couldn't even be in her room. It had to be out. So I was like, okay, that's what we're dealing with. But she wanted a glass of water. She didn't want the water bottle in there, but she wanted a glass of water. So I gave her a glass of water because I'm thinking, you're thirsty. So I give her a full bottle of water. She drinks that whole thing down. She asks for another 3 more. And in my head, I'm like, well, you must be thirsty. So I give her another 3 more. Now that goes on for a couple of nights to the point where I'm like, every morning we wake up, she's wet through an entire sleeping bag, her PJs, the bed. I ran out of sleeping bags because I'm like, I can't dry these things quick enough. We got nothing to sleep in because you're having 5 liters of water before we go to bed. Then the back and forth, the goodnight, the cuddle me, the walk out, it was just exhausting. And so I called a friend of mine who is a sleep consultant and, I was like, what is going on? I'm Googling it. And then sure enough, you Google it and trying to read more books, asking for more glasses of water. Literally the exact things have happened for millennia, So it's like all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is something. I can deal with this. One of the things that really kicked me over the edge in a bad way and made me feel terrible, because honestly, through this process, I've talked a bit before in an earlier episode about getting comfortable yelling. This was a yelling phase for me. There was a lot of yelling. And there were a couple of things about that weren't great. The first thing is a friend of mine sent me a message when I explained what was happening to her and said, I'm absolutely at my wit's end. And it was from an online pediatrician. And she was talking about all of the exact things, the books, the water, everything, that this process of stalling, and that it's about not wanting you to leave. And I felt like an absolute bag of dog poop because you have these things where you are interpreting this behavior and it's frustrating you. And then somebody says to you, you do realize it's just because they're really sad to leave you, and that what you should be saying to them is, Mummy's right here and I'll be right by your side and I'll be thinking about you all night long. And you're like, I've done none of that. I just keep running in every time she won't go to bed and go, what? What now? What now? So then you read that and you feel utterly terrible. Like you've now spent the last 3 to 4 nights making your child feel that you don't want to be with them. And then you're doing the backflips in your own mind. I'm a bad mother. I'm blah, 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 blah. I mean, the great thing about this is at least then you've got the tools to move forward and do it. But at the time, that this is me reflected back kind of stuff where you're like trying to deal with it. You're like trying to work out what's going on. You don't realize at the time it's a toddler thing and that this is what they do. You just think, hang on a second, my child is doing things and it's really pissing me off and I don't know how to get through the other side. And so you're just getting really frustrated. The second thing that really makes you feel bad is my daughter, when I run back in the room, and in those times, there were a few times where I would say, what? And she would go, I just love you. And I'm like, oh, I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole. I love you too. I love you too. All you want to do is tell me that you love me, and I've just walked in really frustrated because I'm like, why are you not asleep yet? Anyway, I got some really good tools. I think the stuff around them wanting and needing you and actually you having to reassure them around that was really good. Interestingly, one of the things that this doctor had said is that a picture of you and them together by their bedside can be really comforting. And I had one beside our bedside, but she'd pulled it off and broken the back of it. And so I put it in a drawer to fix the frame. And it was just about the time that I removed that photo that this kind of behavior started to happen. So that got straight out of the drawer and got stuck up on the wall. And then I really started to lean into this idea of telling her, I'm right outside. I love you so much. And really reassuring and kind of explaining, mummy's going to pop you down and give you a pat, pat, pat. And now I'm going to. And so we've gone through various iterations of this where I've had to kind of change my approach to how I do things, because naturally you kind of move through one thing and then the other things change. And interestingly, I just held firm on, no, we have one glass of water and that's it. And that's fine. I removed every single book we had except for 3 from the bookshelf. So now she asks me at bath time, what books have we got from the library? And I go out and I change the books over and I go, oh my gosh, we've got these 3 books. And interestingly, I thought she'd have a real meltdown that all of the other books were gone, but she didn't. I just said, oh, they're all at the library. And she took that. And I was like, okay, that's a win for me. Those moments where you're just like, how have I done that? What? How did that work? Okay. Nobody say anything. Just keep moving. So I took all the books out. We're like probably a good couple of months through this process, and we still only have 3 books in the bookshelf. The water, and then she started to change just recently. We got into a good rhythm with that. I managed to tell her, comfort her, tell her that I was right outside, and I managed to get out the room. And then she started stalling with cuddles. And that one gets you, because how can you say no to the cuddles? Because you can say no to the water bottle, but you can't say no to the cuddles. So then I had to call up my sleep consultant friend again and say, what do I do here? And she was saying that I need to just be like, we have one cuddle and one pat, 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 and then mummy says goodnight. And that has really been very helpful. So the first night, I made the mistake of sort of saying, oh, we'll have 3 and I was like, no, 3. We're not having 3 of anything. We're going to have 1 because we'll end up having 3, but we're just going to start with 1. So we have 1 cuddle, 1 pat, pat, pat on her bottom, 1 rub on her back, and then mummy goes and says goodnight at the door. Now, the first night, we had to have about 50 cuddles, 50 pat, pat, pats, whatever. But eventually, she does get to the point, and every single time we did it, it's like, okay, but just one more time. I did actually make the mistake of one night. I tried to go firm on the one. And then when she said more, I was like, no, Bubby, time to go to sleep now. And I shut the door, and she was having none of it. She was up in her cot screaming, crying out for me. I rang the sleep consultant. I said, I've done this. I'm trying to maintain the boundary. She's like, probably a bit firm. Probably you need to go in there. She's probably not settled yet. So you probably need to go back in there. So I was like, okay, all right, sorry. I'm trying to get the balance here and work out like what is holding the boundary, what is being a pushover, but what is also giving the love. So then I went in. Now we're in a good rhythm. We might need to do 2 or 3 cuddles. It's totally fine. But every time we do it, I always say to her, we're just going to have 1 more pat, pat, pat and 1 more. And, nighttime routine's taken 30 minutes in the bedroom now, but that's okay because by the time we get to it, she's not screaming when I close the door. She's saying, bye, bye. I'll often go to the door and I say, okay, good night, Bubby. I love you so much. And then she goes, 1 more cuddle. And she'll cover her eyes because she knows that she's asked for something that's a bit naughty, even though cuddle's not naughty. And so I'll go back over and she goes, just 1 more. Just 1 more. So she kind of gets it. And then you're just like, you get it. Yeah, just 1 more. And then I pat, pat, pat you. And then I rub you back. And then I say goodnight. And it's interesting when you have these routines in place. The other night, she woke up at 3:30 in the morning. She never does that. And she was standing up, calling out for me to come and get her. So I'm like, okay, when she stands up in her cot and she's calling out, she wants me in there. So I went in there and I was like, we are absolutely not getting up. There is no way you're coming into my bed because as soon as you come into my bed, you're of the age that you're like, oh, this is now an option. So we're not doing that. So I'm just going to take this routine from whatever time, 7 o'clock, and I'm going to put it in at 3:30. And I'm going to explain to her, it's nice time, it's bedtime, it's nighttime, we don't wake up yet. I'm going to give you a cuddle and then I'm going to pat, pat, pat on your bottom and I'm going to rub your back. And it took 3 or 4 rounds of that kind of process, but she understood it and knows, okay, and then she went back to sleep and slept till the morning. And I just walked out of that room and thought, oh my God, I did it. But that's when the routine really serves you well. Like it's so hard when you're trying to put it in place and you're trying to maintain the boundaries if they're trying to push against you. But when you really get into a bind and you need it, it works and it can really save you. So yeah, the stalling has been an utter punish. Gosh, that couple, I think it probably ended up being a week and a half, or I honestly thought this was the end of me. I don't know how I'm going to get through any more of this parenting business. I give up. I hand in my keys. I'm actually just going to pack the car and whiz out of here and go somewhere. I just thought, this is absolutely unsustainable. But then you come through it, don't you? And then something else crops up. But yeah, if any of those things happen to you, just know that's just what it is. And don't be me, who then goes through the process of just getting the shits with it heaps. And then when they see what it's really about, they're like, oh my God, she just wanted me to be with her. Oh, I feel so bad. Oh God, 99% of this parenting stuff is just feeling bad about yourself and then trying to just fix all the mistakes. It's just relentless. Anyway, there wasn't a question today. That was just me wanting to share that, because honestly, it just was so fundamentally frustrating. And if there's any of those kind of things that you can see when you come across them that can make you think, okay, this isn't forever, this isn't a fundamental change, you get those 100 books out of your bookshelf, you refuse to give the 45th glass of water, and you just make sure that you are consistent at the end, and you will get through it. I promise you. You will be okay. Thanks so much for listening. If you've got a question that you would like me to answer on this show, just head to the description and you can click on the link, and I will see you next week.